The massive station floated in the darkness of space, its crystal walls catching the light from distant stars. Inside, the council chamber was full of tension. 12 species sat in a circle, each one representing thousands of years of civilization. They had ruled the galaxy for longer than most planets had existed. Today they were angry. Day walked into the chamber with calm steps. His dark suit looked simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor of the council members. Behind him, Una carried a silver case. She was nervous, but she hid it well. They had expected this meeting. They had prepared for it. The speaker rose from his seat. Theln was a being made of living crystal, his body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. Ambassador Day of Humanity, you stand accused of breaking the Treaty of Stellar Boundaries. Your species has violated sacred laws. You have crossed into forbidden zones. You have built colonies where none should exist. You have refused to share your new technologies with the Council. How do you answer these charges? Dee stood in the center of the chamber. Lights focused on him from every direction. He could feel the weight of their stares. The Council wanted him to be afraid. They wanted him to apologize and beg for mercy. That was how things always worked. We answer honestly, Day said. His voice was steady. Yes, we crossed the outer veil. Yes, we built colonies there. Yes, we developed new technologies. And we will not share them with the Council. The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Some council members roared. Others hissed or clicked. Theln struck his staff against the floor and the sound rang out like thunder. You admit your crimes? You dare stand before us and show no remorse? Theln's voice was sharp with rage. Day smiled slightly. We admit the truth. But we reject that these are crimes. The Council has lied to the galaxy for 10,000 years. The chamber went silent. This was not how anyone spoke to the Council. This was not how things were done. Una opened the silver case and pulled out a small device. She activated it and images filled the air above the chamber. Stars and planets appeared, rotating slowly. Then came the images of the outer veil, the dark region of space that the Council had declared forbidden. The Council told everyone that ancient dangers lived beyond the veil. Day continued. You said terrible weapons were hidden there. You said worlds had been destroyed by things we could not understand. You made it a crime to even approach that region of space. More images appeared. Human ships exploring strange structures in the veil. Gateways that shimmered with impossible colors. Readings that showed energy patterns unlike anything in normal space. We found your ancient dangers, Day said. They are not dangerous at all. They are gateways, doorways to other dimensions. Places where the rules of physics are different. Places where civilization can grow beyond the limits you have forced upon us. Lies, shouted a council member, a massive creature with 6 arms. The veil contains forces beyond your comprehension. We protect you from... You protect yourselves, Day interrupted. The chamber gasped. No one interrupted a council member. You found these gateways thousands of years ago. You discovered that any species could use them to advance beyond your control, so you declared them forbidden. You destroyed any species that got too close to the truth. Una activated more files. Evidence filled the chamber. Records the council thought were hidden. Files showing other species that had discovered the gateways. Species that had mysteriously gone extinct shortly after. Technologies that had been suppressed. Scientists who had disappeared. We have been watching you for a long time, Day said. We have been patient. We have followed your rules while we prepared, and now we are ready. Theln's crystal body turned dark red, a sign of extreme anger. You overstep, human. You are one species among thousands. You are young. You are weak. You will obey the council, or you will be made to obey. We will not obey, Day said simply. The chamber exploded in noise again. Council members demanded action. Some called for humanity to be stripped of all rights. Others suggested military force. A few even suggested that Earth itself should be placed under council control. Theln raised his staff and silence fell again. The council gives you one final chance, Ambassador. Return to your homeworld. Order your colonies to dismantle. Share your gateway technology. Submit to council oversight. Do this and humanity may continue to exist as a member species. Refuse and we will consider it an act of war. Day looked around the chamber. He saw fear in some faces. Others showed anger. A few looked satisfied, as if they had been waiting for this moment to put humanity in its place. None of them understood what was about to happen. The Council has made its position clear, Day said. Humanity appreciates your offer. However, we must decline. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small communicator. Every council member tensed. Guards moved forward, but Day simply pressed one button. A single word transmitted across space, reaching every human colony, every human ship, every human station. Begin. Day looked up at Thelen. We are not at war with the Council. We simply have no more use for it. Humanity is leaving. We are taking our technology, our people, and our future into our own hands. We will cross through the gateways you feared. We will build civilizations in places you cannot imagine, and we will do it without your permission. You cannot simply leave, Thelen said, but his voice sounded uncertain now. Watch us, Day replied. Una closed the case. Together they turned and walked toward the chamber exit. Council guards blocked their path, weapons raised. Let them go, Thelen said quietly. The guards moved aside, confused. As Day reached the door, he turned back one final time. The Council ruled through fear and control. You kept species weak so you could remain strong. But humanity has learned something you forgot long ago. The universe does not belong to those who are strongest. It belongs to those who dare to reach beyond what they think is possible. Goodbye, Thelen. Perhaps one day you will understand. The door closed behind them. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Thelen spoke, his voice tired. Send the fleet. Blockade all human worlds. They cannot have prepared for everything. We will stop this exodus before it begins. But in his crystal heart, Thelen felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt. And behind that doubt, something even worse. Fear. Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of Unity Station, watching the stars through the massive viewport. His uniform was crisp and clean, but his eyes showed the tiredness of a man who had not slept in days. Around him, officers worked at their stations with focused intensity. Everyone knew what was coming. The communicator on his wrist beeped once. A single word appeared on the screen. Begin. Tay took a deep breath. This is Admiral Tay to all human forces. Execute Exodus Protocol. All stations begin Phase 1. Across human space, 200 colonies received the same message at the same moment. On Terra Nova, the jewel of human expansion, families gathered their belongings. On Mars, engineers shut down factories that had run for 100 years. On the orbital farms of Harvest 3, workers secured the last of the food supplies. Everywhere humanity moved with purpose. The Council fleet appeared 3 hours later. It was the largest military force assembled in 500 years. Thousands of ships, each one representing the military might of the Council's member species. They came in perfect formation, weapons charged, shields raised. At their head was the flagship Eternal Truth, commanded by Ralseth of the Korvax Empire. Ralseth was considered a genius. He had won 70 battles without a single defeat. His tactics were studied in military academies across the galaxy. He stood on his bridge now, looking at the human colony of Terra Nova, expecting to see panic and chaos. Instead, he saw something impossible. Massive rings surrounded the planet. Each ring was 50 kilometers across, made of metal that seemed to shift and change color. They had not been there when the Council last surveyed this system 2 months ago. No one could build something that large so quickly. It was impossible. What are those structures? Ralseth demanded. His science officer studied the readings, confusion clear on her face. Unknown, Commander. They are made of materials not in our database. Energy readings are off the scale. They appear to be generating some kind of spatial distortion. Can we destroy them? Unknown. We would need to. The rings activated. Light erupted from each structure, forming shimmering circles of energy that looked like vertical pools of water. Through these portals, Ralseth could see something that made no sense. Other places. Other worlds. Other skies that were not the sky above Terra Nova. Then the city began to disappear. Buildings shimmered and faded like ghosts. Entire districts phased out of existence, passing through the glowing portals. Ralseth watched as a massive arcology tower, home to 1 million people, simply vanished into one of the gates. Ships lifted from spaceports and flew straight into the portals, disappearing without a trace. All weapons fire at those rings, Ralseth ordered. The Council fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around Terra Nova. Explosions bloomed like flowers. But when the light faded, the rings remained untouched. The weapons had passed straight through them as if they were not even there. On Luna Base, engineer Mina watched the Council's attack on her monitors. She smiled slightly. Around Her technicians monitored hundreds of screens showing gate operations across all human worlds. "The Council is trying to shoot the gates," one technician said. "Let them try," Mina replied. "The gates exist partially in our dimension and partially in another. Their weapons cannot touch what is not fully here." "How long until Earth begins phase-out?" another technician asked. 16 hours. "We need to finish evacuating the outer colonies first. Priority is people, then infrastructure, then everything else." Mina had been working on gate technology for 15 years. She understood the mathematics better than anyone alive. The gates did not just open doorways to other places. They opened doorways to other realities. Pocket dimensions where humans could write their own rules of physics, where faster-than-light travel was trivial, where energy was infinite, where the impossible became possible. The Council had known about these dimensions for thousands of years. They had forbidden anyone from researching them. They had destroyed any species that got too close, but humanity had researched in secret, hidden their progress, and built their gates in places the Council could not see. Now those gates were saving humanity. On Terra Nova, families walked through portals that showed alien skies. They carried suitcases and bags, leading children by the hand. There was no panic. They had practiced these evacuations dozens of times. Every human knew their assigned gate and departure time. Some people even stopped to wave at the Council fleet above before stepping through. Ralseth watched helplessly as the planet below emptied. His weapons were useless. His ships could not catch shuttles that simply vanished into the gates. Even when he tried to send boarding parties, the human stations phased out before his troops could reach them. "This is impossible," he said quietly. "Nothing should be able to do this." His first officer stood beside him. "Orders, Commander?" What orders could he give? How do you fight an enemy that simply leaves? How do you blockade worlds that can step sideways out of normal space? Ralseth had trained his entire life for war. He had studied every battle strategy ever recorded. None of them covered this situation. "Contact the Council," he said finally. "Tell them we cannot stop the Exodus." Across human space, the pattern repeated. The Council sent ships to every human world. Every time, they found the same massive rings, the same shimmering portals, and the same systematic evacuation. Humanity was not fighting. They were simply leaving. On the mining colony of Red Summit, workers carried their equipment through gates that opened into caverns of impossible size. On the research station of Deep Thought, scientists transported their experiments to laboratories that existed in folded space. On the agricultural world of Green Hope, farmers herded livestock through portals to fields that had never seen a natural sun. Some ships tried to run the blockade without using gates. The Council intercepted them, ready for combat. But these human ships were equipped with new technology. Their shields flickered in and out of existence, making them impossible to hit. When they fired back, their weapons seemed to punch through armor that should have stopped them. The battles were brief and brutal. The Council lost 3 ships for every human ship destroyed. Admiral Tay watched it all from Unity Station. 72 hours had passed since the Exodus began. 95% of humanity's outer colonies had already evacuated. Only the core worlds remained, and they were preparing for their own departure. "Admiral, the Council fleet is requesting communication," an officer said. "Put them through." Ralseth's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired, defeated. "Admiral Tay, I am Commander Ralseth of the Council fleet. I am asking you to stop this evacuation. We can negotiate. The Council will hear humanity's concerns." Tay shook his head slowly. "Commander, I respect you as a soldier, but negotiation time ended when the Council gave us an ultimatum. We are not leaving out of anger. We are leaving because we have found something better, something the Council kept from us. The dimensions beyond the gates are dangerous. The Council knows they will lose their power if species can access those dimensions. That is the only danger here." Ralseth was silent for a moment. "Where will you go?" "What will you do?" "We will build new worlds. We will explore new frontiers. We will become more than we are now. And we will do it without chains. And the rest of us? The species who remain?" Tay considered the question. "The gates will not be destroyed. The knowledge will not be lost. Any species that wishes to follow humanity into the new frontier is welcome. But they must choose freedom or the Council. They cannot have both." Ralseth closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed in his expression. "I understand. I will report to the Council. The communication ended. Tay turned to look at Earth through the viewport. His homeworld, the cradle of humanity, would be the last to go. Soon, very soon, even Earth itself would step through the gates and leave this universe behind. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other across the circular room. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for economic sanctions. A few brave souls suggested that perhaps humanity had a point. These voices were quickly silenced. Thelon stood at the center, his crystal body dark with frustration. In 3 days, half of humanity had vanished. Simply gone. Disappeared into portals that led to places the council could not reach. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. It was happening anyway. Order! Thelon's voice rang out like breaking ice. The chamber slowly quieted. We must act decisively. The human exodus cannot be allowed to continue. If other species see this happen, they will question our authority. They will ask why they too cannot access these dimensions. We will lose control. A representative from the Macris Collective spoke up. Perhaps we have already lost control, Speaker. Our fleet cannot stop them. Our weapons cannot harm their gates. What more can we do? Before Thelon could answer, every screen in the chamber activated at once. An image appeared. A human woman with short dark hair and calm eyes looked out at the council. She wore no uniform, no symbols of rank. She simply stood before the camera and smiled. Greetings, Council. My name is Nari. You do not know me, but I know you very well. Who is this? Thelon demanded. How did she breach our security? I breached your security 40 years ago, Nari said calmly. I have been living on this station, walking your halls, attending your meetings. I have been humanity's observer, gathering evidence of your crimes against the galaxy. The chamber erupted again. Guards rushed to try and stop the broadcast, but their attempts failed. The signal was coming from everywhere and nowhere. It could not be blocked. For 10,000 years, the Council has maintained power through lies and suppression. Nari continued. You discovered the dimensional gates long ago. You learned that these gates led to places where any species could advance rapidly, where old advantages meant nothing, where a species 1,000 years old could become as powerful as one 10,000 years old. This terrified you. Images began appearing on the screens. Ancient documents, secret files, records that should have been destroyed long ago. The Herrick civilization discovered the gates 3,000 years ago. They shared their findings with the Council, asking for permission to explore. The Council thanked them and sent experts to study their discovery. 6 months later, the entire Herrick species died from a mysterious plague. The Council declared their worlds quarantined and took control of their research. The representatives stirred. Many had heard legends of the Herricks, but the official history said they had destroyed themselves through biological warfare. More images appeared. The Telkar built their own gate prototype 1,500 years ago. The Council discovered it during a routine inspection. The Telkar leadership was arrested for illegal research. Their gate was destroyed. Within a year, their entire government had been replaced with Council-approved officials. The Telkar became a servant species. Their genius turned to maintaining Council technology. Representative after representative saw their own species mentioned. Technologies that had been declared impossible were shown to have been developed and then suppressed. Scientists who asked dangerous questions were revealed to have been silenced. Entire civilizations that got too close to the truth had been quietly destroyed or controlled. The Council has told the galaxy that the dimensions beyond the gates are dangerous. This is true. They are dangerous to the Council's power. In those dimensions, the rules are different. Old species have no advantage over young ones. The Council's ancient weapons and technologies mean nothing there. Everyone starts equal. The Council could not allow that. Nari's image changed to show her standing in the Council archives. I spent decades in these archives. I learned all your secrets. I know which Council members voted to destroy the Herricks. I know who ordered the suppression of fusion technology 600 years ago. I know how many species discovered faster-than-light travel, only to have the Council steal it and claim it as their own gift to civilization. Thelon tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by the noise from other representatives. Some were denying the accusations. Others were admitting they had known. A few were demanding that Nari be silenced immediately. Humanity offers a choice to all species, Nari said. The gates are real. The dimensions beyond them are real. We have opened permanent gateways and marked their locations. Any species that wishes to follow us is welcome. Any species that wishes to remain under Council rule is free to do so. But now everyone knows the truth. Now everyone can choose. The broadcast ended. The screens went dark. For a long moment, the Council chamber was silent. Then the reports started coming in. On dozens of worlds, populations were rioting. Species that had been content under Council rule were now demanding answers. The gates humanity had opened were not hidden. They shimmered in open space, visible to anyone with a telescope. Some species were already sending ships to investigate. Thel knew in that moment that the Council had lost, not through military defeat, not through economic collapse, through the simple act of truth being revealed. The foundation of Council power had been secrecy and control of information. Nari had destroyed that foundation in minutes. "We need to act now," a military representative said. "Send our forces to Earth. The humans have not evacuated their homeworld yet. We can attack them there. Show the galaxy that rebellion has consequences." Several representatives agreed. Others argued against it. The debate raged for an hour before Theln finally made a decision. "Prepare a strike force. We will attack Earth directly. If we cannot stop the exodus, we will at least punish humanity for their defiance." Admiral Juan received the warning from intelligence sources still loyal to humanity. The Council was sending its elite forces to Earth. They were coming to destroy the homeworld, to make an example of humanity's birthplace. It would be a symbolic attack, a message written in fire and blood. Juan commanded Earth's defense fleet from the battleship Defender. His force numbered only 200 ships. The Council strike force had over 3,000. It was suicide to fight. But Earth needed time. The evacuation of the homeworld was a massive undertaking. Cities had to be transported. Oceans had to be moved. Mountains had to be shifted. It required precise coordination and time. Time that Juan had to buy. "All ships, this is Admiral Juan. The Council fleet approaches. We knew this day might come. Our mission is not to win. Our mission is to delay. Every minute we hold them is another 1,000 civilians evacuated. Earth is our mother. We are her children. Today we defend our home one last time." The Council fleet arrived in overwhelming numbers. They came ready for battle, weapons charged, intent on destruction. They expected the humans to run or surrender. Instead, Juan's fleet attacked. The battle was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Human ships flickered in and out of normal space, phasing between dimensions. They could not maintain it for long. The technology was too new, but it made them nearly impossible to target. When they did fire, their weapons punched through Council shields as if they were not there. Juan watched from his command chair as the battle unfolded. His ships were outnumbered 15-1, but they were winning. The Council forces had trained for traditional combat. They had no tactics for enemies that could phase between realities. "Sir, we have lost the courage and the justice," his tactical officer reported. "Freedom is badly damaged, but still fighting. Tell Freedom to fall back through the lunar gate. All damaged ships retreat and repair. Fresh ships move forward." The battle continued for 6 hours. It was brutal and desperate. The Council lost 30 ships for every human ship destroyed, but the numbers were against Juan. Slowly, inevitably, his fleet was being pushed back. On Earth below, the evacuation continued. Entire cities shimmered and vanished through massive gates. The Pacific Ocean was being transported section by section, its waters pouring through portals into artificial seas in the pocket dimension. Mountains flickered and faded as they were relocated. Earth itself was being dismantled and carried away. Juan knew he could not hold much longer. His fleet was down to 70 ships. The Council had over 2,000 still in fighting condition, but he had bought the time needed. Earth was 90% evacuated. "Admiral, we are receiving a message from the surface. The final evacuation gates are opening. Earth Command says to retreat. Our job is done." Juan looked at his damaged fleet. They had fought well. They had held when holding should have been impossible. "All ships fall back to Earth orbit. Prepare for final phase-out." As his ships retreated, the Council fleet pursued. They wanted blood. They wanted revenge. They chased Juan's fleet right into orbit around Earth, and then they stopped, horror filling every commander's heart. Earth itself was glowing. The entire planet was wrapped in a massive gate field. As they watched, Earth began to fade, becoming transparent, starting to disappear. The Council fleet hung in space around where Earth used to be. Commanders stared at empty space where a planet had existed moments before. They had watched it fade like a ghost. watched it shimmer and disappear into dimensions they could not reach. An entire world gone. Simply gone. Ralseth stood on his bridge in silence. He had fought many battles, conquered many enemies. He had never felt so powerless. How do you fight an enemy that can move planets? How do you threaten a species that can simply step sideways out of your reality? Commander, we are receiving a priority signal from the Council Station, his communications officer said. Ambassador Day has returned. He is requesting to address the Council one final time. Ralseth was not surprised. The human ambassador had started this. It made sense he would be there to finish it. In the Council chamber, chaos had given way to exhausted silence. Representatives sat in their seats watching news feeds from across the galaxy. 17 species had announced they were sending expeditions to the human gates. Riots continued on dozens of worlds. The Council's authority was crumbling in real time. When Day entered the chamber, no one tried to stop him. Guards stood aside. Representatives simply watched. Thelen remained in his position at the center, his crystal body dull and dark. Ambassador Day, Thelen said quietly. You have returned. Have you come to gloat? To watch us fall? Day walked to the center of the chamber. He carried no weapons, no devices. He simply stood and spoke. I have not come to gloat, Speaker. I have come to explain. Humanity does not hate the Council. We do not wish you harm. We simply refuse to be limited by your fears. We protected the galaxy, a representative said. We maintained order for 10,000 years. We kept dangerous technologies away from species too young to use them wisely. We saved countless lives through our guidance. You kept the galaxy weak, Day replied, but his voice was not cruel. You told yourselves you were protecting others, but you were protecting yourselves. You feared what would happen if younger species had access to the same tools you used to build your power. You feared becoming irrelevant, so you suppressed progress and called it safety. Thelen's body flickered with dull light. And now you offer the galaxy chaos. You give them access to dimensions they do not understand. You encourage them to abandon the structures that have maintained peace. What happens when species go to war in those dimensions? What happens when they develop weapons that can destroy entire realities? Then they will face those challenges, Day said. They will grow from them or fail because of them. That is the nature of freedom. It includes the freedom to make mistakes, the freedom to fail. You denied the galaxy that choice. Behind Day, screens activated. But this time, instead of accusations and evidence, they showed something else. Images from beyond the gates. Images of what humanity had built in just 6 months. Gina appeared on the screens. She stood in a laboratory that existed in impossible geometry, where walls curved in directions that should not exist. Behind her, stars shone that had never existed in normal space. My name is Gina, she said. I am a dimensional physicist. I helped design the gates that brought humanity to our new home. I want to show the Council what we have achieved since leaving. The images shifted. Worlds appeared on the screens. But these were not natural worlds. They had been designed, created from nothing. Oceans that glowed with bioluminescence. Forests where trees grew in spiral patterns. Cities that floated in spaces where up and down had no meaning. In the pocket dimension, we are not bound by the laws of physics from our birth universe. We can change them. We can create stars that burn cold instead of hot. We can design planets with whatever gravity we wish. We can build entire solar systems in spaces smaller than a moon. More images appeared. Human children playing in parks where water flowed upward. Scientists conducting experiments in laboratories where time moved at different speeds in different rooms. Engineers building ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We have not just built new homes, Gina continued. We have advanced technologically faster than we thought possible. In 6 months here, we have made discoveries that would have taken centuries in normal space. We have solved problems of energy and resources. We have found ways to travel faster than light without breaking any laws of physics because we simply wrote new laws. A representative stood up, shock clear on their face. This is impossible. No species can advance so quickly. It takes millennia to develop such technologies safely. It takes millennia under Council rules, Gina said. But we have no Council here. We have no restrictions on research. No forbidden questions. No suppressed discoveries. We have only curiosity and the freedom to explore it. The images changed again. This time they showed something even more shocking. Other species, aliens that had come through the gates to join humanity. Some were refugees from Council worlds. Others were entire colonies that had voted to leave their old civilizations behind. We are not alone in the new dimension, Gina said. 43 species have come through the gates. Some came as individuals. Others came as entire populations. They have all found the same thing we found: freedom, growth, possibility, she smiled. And we have found other dimensions. The pocket reality we entered first was just the beginning. There are infinite dimensions, infinite variations of physical laws. We have made contact with civilizations that evolved in realities completely different from ours. We are building networks that span not just space, but all possible spaces. We are becoming something more than we were. The screens shifted one final time, showing something that made every council member lean forward. Gates within the pocket dimension. Portals opening to other realities. Glimpses of places where physics worked in ways that seemed like magic. Technologies that made even the human advances look primitive. The council kept the galaxy in a single room, Gina said. We have opened doors to an infinite house. Every species that joins us discovers their own potential. Every civilization that comes through the gates finds their own path to greatness. This is what the council denied the galaxy for 10,000 years. This is what we are offering now. Her image faded. Day stood alone in the center of the chamber again. The council can choose, Day said. You can cling to power in this dimension, ruling over species that increasingly question your authority. Or you can accept that your time as the galaxy's guardians has ended. You can step aside with dignity and perhaps even join us in exploring what lies beyond. And if we refuse, Theln asked, then you refuse. We will not force you. We will not attack you. We will simply continue without you. The gates remain open. We have left beacons scattered across normal space. Any species that wishes to follow will find the way. Your choice does not affect theirs. Day turned to leave, then paused. In the new dimensions, we have found something interesting. We found evidence that the council species once explored these realities, millions of years ago before the current council was formed. Your ancestors knew about the gates. They used them. They advanced because of them. But somewhere along the way, your species forgot. They became comfortable with their power in normal space. They closed the gates and forbade others from opening them. You did not just suppress other species, Speaker. You suppressed your own potential. You trapped yourselves as much as you trapped others. The chamber was silent. The door remains open, Day said. When you are ready to remember what your ancestors knew, when you are ready to grow again, you will know where to find us. He walked out of the chamber. This time, no one stopped him. No one spoke. They simply sat in silence, processing what they had seen and heard. Theln watched him go. The council had ruled for 10,000 years. They had maintained order, enforced laws, guided civilization. They had told themselves it was for the good of all. Now a species barely 3,000 years old had shown them how small their vision had been. On the screens around the chamber, reports continued to come in. More species announcing expeditions to the gates, more riots demanding freedom, more questions that the council could not answer. The age of the council was ending. Not with war, not with rebellion, simply with the realization that they had been wrong, that they had held back the galaxy in their fear of change, that they had become the very thing they claimed to protect against: stagnation, limitation, death of potential. Theln looked around at the other representatives. Some looked angry. Some looked lost. A few looked thoughtful, as if considering Day's words seriously. What do we do? Someone asked. Theln had no answer. For 10,000 years, the council had always known what to do. Now, for the first time, they were uncertain. The memorial station floated alone in the emptiness where Earth used to orbit. It was small, just large enough for a crew of 50. Its single gate still glowed softly, a portal to the dimension where humanity had gone. This was the last human structure in normal space. Captain Sung commanded the station. He was young for such responsibility, barely 30 years old. But he had volunteered for this duty, and no one questioned his dedication. For one final week, the gate would remain open. Any being who wished to pass through would be allowed. After that, humanity would seal this entrance forever. They came in thousands. Ships from dozens of species approached the station every hour. Some were official delegations, sent by governments that had broken from the council. Others were refugees fleeing from worlds where the riots had turned violent. Many were simply individuals and families who had heard about the gates and wanted to see what lay beyond. Sung met them all personally. He stood at the gate entrance welcoming each group, explaining what they would find on the other side. You must understand, he told each group. The dimension beyond is not paradise. It is opportunity. You will still need to work. You will still face challenges, but you will be free to solve those challenges in your own way, free to grow without limits, free to become whatever you can be. Some turned back after hearing this. They wanted safety, not opportunity. They wanted guarantees, not possibilities. Sung did not judge them. Freedom was not for everyone, but many went through. A family of Talran scientists, excited about research without restrictions. A group of Korvax soldiers, tired of fighting wars for council interests. An entire colony ship of Veshon refugees, fleeing persecution for asking forbidden questions. One by one, group by group, they stepped through the shimmering portal and vanished into light. On the 5th day, a single ship approached. It was unmarked, flying no flags, broadcasting no identity. Sung watched it dock with curiosity. When the airlock opened, he was shocked by who stepped through. Theln, the council speaker himself. The crystal being moved slowly as if each step took great effort. His body was dull, lacking the usual rainbow shimmer. He looked old in a way that had nothing to do with years. Captain Sung, Theln said. His voice was quiet, nothing like the commanding tone he used in the council chamber. Speaker Theln, Sung replied, keeping his voice neutral. What brings you here? Curiosity. Perhaps foolishness. I am not sure anymore. Theln looked at the gate. I have come to see what humanity has built, to see what we denied the galaxy. Sung studied the old being. He saw no guards, no weapons, no threats, just an ancient creature who looked tired and lost. I can give you a brief visit, Sung said. You may look, but you may not stay. The council is not welcome in the new dimension. I understand. Sung led Theln to the gate. They stepped through together and the world changed. They emerged on a platform that floated in space, but it was not the black emptiness of normal space. Here, nebulae swirled in colors that had no names. Stars burned in patterns that formed natural artwork. In the distance, structures the size of solar systems drifted by, cities built to house billions. This is the hub, Sung explained. The central gathering point for all species that have come through. From here you can reach any of the settled regions. Thelon said nothing. He simply stared. Sung brought him to an observation deck. Below them, a world was being built, not discovered. Not terraformed. Built from nothing. Matter was being shaped by machines that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Atmosphere was being generated by technology that pulled elements directly from other realities. Life was being seeded by scientists who understood biology at a level the Council had never achieved. How long has this world been under construction? Theln asked. 3 days. Impossible. Not here. In this dimension, the rules are different. Construction that would take decades in normal space takes days. Research that would take centuries takes months. We are not bound by the limits that held us back before. They walked through corridors filled with beings from hundreds of species. Humans worked alongside aliens that the Council had never even contacted. Children played in gardens that grew in impossible ways. Scientists debated theories in dozen languages, using translation devices far beyond anything the Council possessed. Sung brought Thelon to a massive window overlooking the entire hub region. Thousands of worlds stretched out in all directions. Some were traditional planets. Others were artificial structures that defied description. All of them were connected by a network of gates, creating a civilization that spanned dimensions. We have been here 6 months, Sung said. In that time, humanity has built more than we built in 3,000 years in normal space. And we are not alone. 57 species have joined us now. Each one brings their own knowledge, their own perspective. We are advancing together faster than any single species could alone. And the dangers? Thelon asked. The Council warned about the risks of these dimensions. Surely you have faced problems. Of course. We have had accidents. We have lost people to experiments that went wrong. We have had conflicts between groups with different ideas about how to proceed. But we face these problems together and we learn from them. That is the nature of growth. Risk and reward. Failure and success. You cannot have one without the other. Sung paused, then continued. The Council eliminated risk. You made everything safe and controlled, but in doing so you eliminated progress. You created a galaxy that was stable but stagnant. A civilization that could never fall but could never rise either. You traded potential for security. Thelon's body flickered with pale light. We believed we were protecting the galaxy. You were. But you were also imprisoning it. Sometimes the same action can be both protective and harmful. The Council did not start as villains. You started as guardians, but over thousands of years you forgot the difference between protecting people from danger and protecting them from growth. They stood in silence for a long time, watching ships come and go through the gates, families arriving from normal space seeking new lives, trade vessels carrying goods between dimensions, explorer ships heading out to map new realities. What happens now? Thaln asked finally. To the Council? To those who remain in normal space? That is your choice, Sung said. Humanity has no plans to return. We have found what we needed. But the gates remain. Any species can follow. Any individual can choose to step through. The Council can continue to rule over those who prefer safety over freedom, or the Council can disband and let each species choose their own path. That decision is yours. Thaln turned to face Sung. And if the Council chooses to close the gates, to destroy them and forbid anyone from using them, then you will fail. We have scattered thousands of gate beacons across normal space, hidden in asteroids, buried on moons, orbiting in deep space. You cannot find them all. And even if you did, any species with sufficient technology can build their own gates now. We left the blueprints public and free. The knowledge cannot be unlearned. The door cannot be closed. Thaln was silent for another long moment. Then he said quietly, I see. We have truly lost. You have not lost, Sung corrected. You have simply reached the end of one era. What comes next is up to you. The Council can evolve, can open itself to change and growth, or it can resist and fade into history. But either way, the galaxy has changed. Species will no longer accept limits on their potential. Sung led Thaln back to the gate. They returned to the memorial station together. Thank you for showing me, Thaln said. I understand now. Not just what humanity has done, but why it had to be done. Will you return to the Council? I do not know, perhaps, or perhaps I will resign. Let someone younger, someone with vision, take my place. The Council needs new leadership. Leaders who understand that the age of control has ended. Thaln departed. His ship left the station and jumped away into the darkness. Sung watched him go, wondering what the old speaker would do. 2 days later, on the 7th day of the memorial station's operation, Sung received a transmission. It was from the Council station. Thaln had resigned as speaker. The Council had voted to dissolve its absolute authority. Each species would now govern itself. The Council would remain only as an advisory body, offering guidance to those who asked for it, but holding no power to enforce its will. 17 member species immediately announced they were sending colonization missions through the gates. 8 more declared they were building their own gates. The rest chose to remain in normal space, preferring the familiar even if it meant slower growth. The galaxy was changing. The age of the Council had ended. The age of exploration had begun. On the final day, Sung stood at the gate one last time. The last refugees had passed through. The last trade ships had departed. It was time to close this entrance and join the rest of humanity in the new dimension. Before leaving, Sung activated a beacon. It would broadcast continuously, sending a message to anyone who found it. The message was simple: the door remains open. Not here, not now, but always. Humanity has left seeds throughout your space, quantum beacons that can become gates when you are ready, when your species has grown enough, when your civilization has matured enough, when you are prepared to take responsibility for your own destiny. You will find them, you will understand them, and when that day comes, you will know where to find us. Until then, grow, learn, question. The universe is larger than you know, and all of it is waiting for you. Sung stepped through the gate. The memorial station powered down. The portal closed, its light fading to darkness. In normal space, the Council worlds continued. Some species thrived under their new freedom. Others struggled with decisions they were not used to making. Some found the hidden beacons and activated them, joining humanity in the new dimensions. Others destroyed the beacons they found, choosing to remain in the space they knew. But everyone knew the truth now. The truth that the Council had hidden for 10,000 years. There was more. More space, more possibilities, more potential, and any species brave enough to reach for it could grasp it. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had simply shown everyone there were better galaxies to build. And in doing so, they had freed not just themselves but every species capable of dreaming of something greater. The Council could only watch as humanity departed. And in that watching, In that moment of powerlessness, they finally understood what they had become. Not protectors, not guardians, but jailers who had imprisoned the galaxy in comfort and called it safety. Now the prison door stood open. Some would walk through. Others would stay behind. But none could claim they did not have a choice. The age of limitations had ended. The age of possibility had begun.